I've got exactly an hour to film this video, so let's get to it. So following on from my video on rereading my childhood favorites and rereading middle grade fiction, so I've now completed the books that I set out to read, and now I'm going to tell you my thoughts on them. In no particular order, actually it is an order. I'm going to do my reviews in the order that I read the book. So the first book that I read was Artemis Fowl by Owen Colfer. I really enjoyed this on the first time round, and I bought quite a few sequels and I finished a few of them. I don't think I finished the entire series, but I'm getting off track. It took me a while to actually really get into this book. There were parts that I think were meant to be funny that I didn't find funny, maybe because I'm older than the intended audience. One of the things that I actually found quite funny was the book tries to be extremely technologically advanced. So there's this part where he goes surfing the internet to find out about fairies and other sort of folk like that. And it says how he finds all these sources and he travels through gigabytes of data, and he finds a reference to fairy in nearly every country and every civilization has a different term. For us, reading that doesn't prove its existence, and yet in Artemis Fowl he seems to be like, okay, well, if there's an account of it everywhere on the net, then it must be true, right? This has aged very badly. There's a lot of things on the net that are definitely not true. There was another example about a printer, I think. Okay, yeah, so he figures out how to decode the book that the people own, and he puts in the code into a computer and then, quote, a single page scrolled from the laser writer. And I had to Google it. I didn't know what a laser writer was. I'm gonna put it up here or here. This is what a laser writer is. It made me laugh so much. The book is trying to be advanced, but it really isn't. I still found that really entertaining. There were parts that were supposed to be funny that I didn't find funny, and there were parts that were supposed to be serious and cool, and I found them hilarious, like the laser printer. This book isn't that old. It was first published in 2001. How crazy is it that in 19 years, how much technology has changed in 19 years? One thing that I found quite confusing at times were the descriptions. There was this one scene I reread, and it just didn't make sense. I don't want to talk about it because, well, actually, I suppose I could. Okay, found it straight away. So it's on page 48 of this edition. Holly, the fairy, is trying to go from the ground level up through this contraption, kind of like a pod. Actually, I think it is a pod, and trying to get to the ground level. And you ride like a gust of, like, I think a volcanic energy. I don't know how to explain it. But the description didn't make sense in my head, and I read it, and it actually made me delay finishing the book for maybe a week because I wouldn't get past that part because it didn't make sense in my head. So, and there were other parts in the book where the descriptions I feel aren't descriptive enough because I couldn't understand how things were happening. I like to picture the scenes running in my head. So maybe that was just me. Maybe I just couldn't understand it. But I noticed a couple of times there were parts in the book where it was describing, but it wasn't describing enough, and I got confused. I still really enjoyed the book. It was about a third to the end. So 2/3 in, I started to really get into it, and I was flying through the book at that stage. I really enjoyed the characters. I, again, love Butler. He's like a really cool bodyguard / spy agent. And he uses a lot of weapons and really old school, like, I imagined it like 007 kind of stuff. But there was a point near the end of the book where Artemis made a decision and I was not happy with it. And something happens that is pretty intense to Butler. And then everything's fine, and then everything's brushed over, and then it doesn't get addressed again. I was like, hang on, Artemis, you can't just do what you just did and not like apologize. Maybe he did apologize. I can't remember. It's been a while since I read the book now, but I think he owes him a bit more than an apology even. The Butler family, this is something else. The Butler family is so loyal to Artemis, and I don't know why. It's explained that the Butler family has grown up serving the Fowls, and while I am a sucker for like the character that is loyal to the end, and they'll do anything for the other character, but I feel like we need to know why Butler is so loyal, because he goes beyond, like above and beyond for him, and he follows his orders without question. And while I understand that he's been brought up with it and it's in his nature, well, it's been bred into the Butler gene, almost, you could say, or Butler upbringing, I feel like there needs to be more. There needs to be a reason why Butler and his family are so loyal to him. There must be something else. I don't know. I'm probably reading into it too much. I probably am. But I feel like I would love him even more. I already love him. But I would love him even more if I understood why he was so protective and supportive and loyal. Why? Why is he like that? I would like to know. Will I find out in the next book? I don't know. I can't remember the other books at all, actually. I ended up giving this a 3-star. That doesn't mean I didn't like it. I still really liked it. But there were things that I noticed that I probably would have liked, like more descriptions. The next book that I read was The Rangers Apprentice, The Ruins of Golan by John Flanagan. Now, this is the second time I'm reading this. I really enjoyed this book. I forgot so much. This book is that level up in terms of fantasy and description and world building compared to Artemis Fowl. This is like the next level up. I loved the descriptions. There's lots of characters. The characters have more depth and more backstory to them. The first half of this book is about, maybe I should be saying what the books are about instead of just saying what I thought. The Rangers Apprentice is about a boy called Will who lives in an orphanage. He believes that his father was a great hero, or he was told that his father was a great hero who died in battle, and that's all he knows. He interprets this as his father being a knight. So he wants to become a knight. There's two main characters that we follow, Will and Horace. Horace is a taller, stocky, he's definitely more of the soldier type, and he tends to tease Will a lot, and Will is the smaller, faster, sneakier kind of character. So he will often run away or hide or climb a tree to get away from Horace, and he's very good with his words, whereas Horace is just sort of muscle and bulk. Horace gets assigned to night school, and Will doesn't get assigned to night school. He gets assigned to be a ranger, or be the Rangers Apprentice. The book starts with both characters switching between Horace and Will, showing their training and all that. And I love training sequences. I love training sequences. I love to see the characters grow and learn skills. There's a lot of description as to where they are brought up. There's a lot of world building, which I loved. Holt was a great character. He's not your typical hero. Holt is someone who's shrouded in mystery, and he's not very tall. He's quite small but muscular, and he seemed to have a lot of knowledge. And I would love to learn more about him. I feel like we only scraped the surface with him, and that's probably the point, because I think there's like 20 books. So we're probably going to learn more about him later. But anyway, there are events that happen between Horace and Will, and I really enjoy watching their relationship develop from bullying to friendship. I don't think that's a spoiler. I feel that these two characters are going to do some pretty amazing things in the future. There's a main creature that they're trying to fight. Now, I don't know if this is because I'm reading this for the second time, but the climax was so obvious to me. Or maybe it's because I'm a gamer and this is a very easy option to do. But I just thought, why don't you just do this? And then that happens and they're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And I'm like, bro, I thought about that ages ago. Like, that wasn't a huge twist to me. It could have been because I'd read this book before, and it may not be a surprise to me because I just have a bit more life experience than a 12-year-old or 13-year-old that might be reading this for the first time. It was still, what's the word? Described very well, and there was a lot of suspense for the massive ending part. I'd like more action in future books. It's probably because half of this book was about training and developing the area and the world building and all this stuff. I gave this 4 stars. I did quite enjoy this book. Going well for time. May be able to finish this. That would be good. I don't want to film this again. The third book that I read was Evil Genius by Catherine Jinks. This book was intense and it was not what I was expecting at all. I thought that it would be Artemis Fowl because it's about a boy genius like Artemis Fowl. This was not the case at all, and this book is not a this book is not middle fiction. I realized that about a third of the way in. Because someone dies. And I don't think that's a spoiler. Maybe it is. And it can get quite violent. I cringed sometimes. That being said, I loved this book. I really enjoyed it. Cadell is very interesting. So this is Cadell. So basically, what happens in this book? Cadell is a genius with computers. He is an adopted child, and his parents don't really know what to do with him. And he goes to a college that is supposed to be for computers and stuff, but actually is for evil geniuses. One of the classes is called Pure Evil. It was very interesting. I'd never read anything like this. It was like an evil genius version of Harry Potter. That's a really good way of describing it. Good job. So you've got all these classes, you've got all these professors, and they're all sort of in those. There's poison, there's human experimenting, but they do it on animals. There's lots of stuff like that. Yeah. About a third of the way in, we got introduced to all the characters, and I got so confused. I had to make a card. I had to make a card to keep track of all the characters. I had to write the name of the character, a description of them, and what they taught. This helped so much because there were so many characters. I don't know how I would have kept track without this. It was just a bit overwhelming, the amount of characters that were in this book. Cadell he's always trying to do the next thing, do the next biggest thing. He hacks into computer networks, he orchestrates traffic jams, he sabotaged construction sites, and now he's doing his world domination degree. So as he's getting older, he's trying to do more and more things to see how far he can get with his power of hacking and all this stuff. It was really interesting. I really got hooked into this. Once I kind of got past maybe halfway after I knew all the characters and how things were going, it was quite shocking, the turn that it went. I wasn't expecting it at all. And the ending was quite satisfying, I'd say. I was happy with the ending, but it left me wanting more. So I ended up ordering the sequels. And I had to get the same edition, so I had to pay a little bit extra in shipping because I wanted them to match. Oh, one other thing. This is set in Australia, in Sydney, which I'm from Australia, Sydney, and it was quite cool when certain suburbs were described or certain landmarks were described. I'm like, oh, I've been there. That was really cool. I've never had a book that's been so close to home, literally so close to home. I was able to actually picture myself where Cadell was. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that. So I think I gave this 5 stars. I did. I gave this 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. Oh, I forgot something else. There's a character with a disability in this story. And Her representation was fantastic. This is quite a debilitating disability in a physical sense. Catherine Jinx, the way that she portrays this character and introduces the character makes you realize how little the disability affects her as a character. When the character is introduced to Cadell, I was very interested to see how Cadell would react. And Cadell was amazing. And I really, really enjoyed that part of the book. So the last book I read, I was planning on reading Charlie Bone Midnight something, but I didn't own it. It wasn't in Kindle, and I decided to read something new. I decided to read The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. We followed two characters. The girl, and her name is Luna, and a boy whose name is, I forget, Ontane. So we follow Luna and Ontane. There's this village where they believe they need to sacrifice babies to the witch so that the witch doesn't destroy them all. And the witch will take the baby and she delivers it to a village on the other side of the forest. The witch will feed the baby starlight, and this gives the child slight magical abilities. They have a bit of a glow to their eyes. One time there's a child who the witch, she kind of unconsciously starts to fall in love with the child, and she's not paying attention, and so she ends up feeding the baby, instead of feeding the baby starlight, she feeds the baby moonlight. And this means she becomes enmagicked, which means she has too much magic and she can't be given to an ordinary family. A witch decides to raise her herself. It took me a while, again, to kind of get into the story. It was very cutesy and very kind of like a family story. There was a point in the story where things started happening and my heart was racing, and people are going here and people are going here and this person's going here and this person's trying to kill this person and this person is... And then Luna is developing all her magical abilities, and then the witch is... This is happening, and then this is happening. Very suspenseful, very sweet, so loving. The story, the message behind the story was just showing how love conquers all. Really pulled at my heartstrings. I did cry at the end. It was just so heartwarming. I really enjoyed it. Even the part when I cried. I definitely enjoyed that story. And I gave it 5 stars. So this was a very interesting experience. I've never purposely decided to read books from the same genre before. And reading these books, I found that this was like a very beginner kind of book into sci-fi fantasy that doesn't overwhelm you with detail. It kind of underwhelmed me in detail. This one is like the next level up, into fantasy. I love this book. I feel that this is a really good start into eventually reading epic fantasies, because you do follow 2 characters. This was not middle grade fiction. This is, yeah, so it doesn't count. And then The Girl Who Drank the Moon, it's probably a nice middle grade fiction book for younger readers who aren't quite ready to read epic series, because Artemis Fowl and Rangers Apprentice are big undertakings. It's also got a really nice message that anyone could read and enjoy. I feel like that's really important for things to withstand the test of time. So, how do I hold these? Oh, I can do this thing. I always forget to do this. I need to do this. When I read a book, it needs to go straight up here. There are the books that I read. Now that I've read these, I'm thinking I've got a lot of books on my TBR, and I'm thinking of doing maybe like a TBR game in my next video to give me a goal to read those books, because they've been sitting on my shelf for too long and I need to read them and I need to get through them, because I do. It won't be themed like this one was. I do plan on doing more themed videos, but for now, I think I'm going to end the video here. If you've read any of these books and you had similar thoughts or opinions that I did, please let me know in the comments below. The other thing that I want to say is I've reached 10 subscribers. There are 10 people who are following me. You guys are awesome. Please don't leave. I hope that I entertain. I'll see you in the next video when I decide what it's gonna be. Bye guys.